I want you to just imagine a scenario for a second.
Okay, ready.
Put yourself right in the middle of a bustling, totally chaotic capital city.
Right.
It's a weekday afternoon. Traffic is, at an absolute crawl. People are rushing back to work. The coffee shops are just humming with conversations.
Typical city scene?
Exactly. But then a single musician drops a brand new album.
Okay.
And almost instantly, the entire city practically stops functioning.
Wait, like literally stops.
I mean, literally, every single blue and white taxi on the street rolls down their windows. Every corner cafe turns up their sound system. Every street vendor with, like, a portable speaker syncs up to the exact same song.
Wow.
Yeah, it becomes the singular soundtrack of the whole metropolis. And it's not just the civilians either.
Really?
Imagine getting pulled over by a police officer in this environment. The cop walking up to your window is listening to the exact same track that's currently blasting on your car radio.
I mean, it sounds completely fictional, to be honest. It's like this highly coordinated, almost dystopian level of cultural synchronization that you really only see in a movie.
Well, welcome to our deep dive, because today we are exploring a very real phenomenon.
Yeah, we really are.
We are looking into the life, the music, and the, honestly, entirely unprecedented influence of Tewodros Kassahun, who is known globally as Teddy Afro.
The absolute king of modern Ethiopian music.
Born July 14th, 1976 in Addis Ababa. And yeah, he is a living national icon.
The sheer scale of his reach is, well, it's what makes these sources so captivating.
Definitely.
Because we are dealing with a figure who operates completely outside the normal boundaries and really the normal mechanics of the global music industry.
And that is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We are going to figure out how a single artist who sings exclusively in Amharic somehow managed to completely bypass the Western music machine.
It's wild.
It is. We want to know the mechanisms behind how he became a Billboard-topping global juggernaut, a musical historian for a massive youth generation, and ultimately the sonic conscience of an entire nation.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because before we can even begin to talk about his political influence or, how he moves millions of records, we have to understand the literal sound that captured all these people.
Right, the actual music.
Exactly. Where does this specific magnetic sound actually come from?
Well, to understand the sound, you really have to look at his foundation. It starts right at home, like embedded in his upbringing.
In Addis Ababa.
Yes, in Addis Ababa. He was born to these incredibly artistic parents. His father, Kassahun Jamamo, was a songwriter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and his mother, Tele Araj, she was a professional dancer.
That's a powerhouse household.
It really is.
Yeah.
So from day one, rhythm, complex lyricism, the whole mechanics of performance, that was just the baseline of his childhood.
Right.
But the real seismic shift in his career, and honestly for Ethiopian pop music in general, happened in 2001.
When he dropped his debut album.
Exactly, the album called Ebukida.
Yeah, and our sources highlight that Abugida wasn't just like a successful pop record. It introduced this highly specific, totally intoxicating musical blend.
It did.
But I want to understand the mechanics of that because, how exactly do you invent a new sound in a culture that already has such a rich, ancient musical heritage?
Well, what's fascinating here is how deliberate and precise his musical engineering really is.
Okay, break that down for us.
He essentially took two very distinct sonic worlds and just forced them to lock together. First, you have roots reggae.
Reggae.
Yeah. Reggae has this deep, driving, universal heartbeat. It uses an offbeat syncopation that, it universally makes the human body want to move.
Right, you feel it instantly.
But then, instead of using standard Western pop melodies over that reggae beat, he layered traditional Ethiopian highland pentatonic structures right on top of it.
Wait, pentatonic structure, can you unpack that for us? How does that change the reggae feel?
So the pentatonic scale is a 5-note musical scale.
Okay.
And it is the absolute foundational bedrock of traditional Ethiopian music. It gives the music this very distinct, haunting, evocative flavor that you just instantly recognize if you grew up with it.
Oh, I see.
And then on top of that specific scale, he applied classic Ethiopian vocal styling.
Which is what exactly?
It's this highly emotive, soaring vibrato.
Okay, yeah.
So by weaving these elements together, he created a rhythm that was, on one hand, universally accessible and relaxed because of the reggae bass line.
Right.
But on the other hand, It was fiercely, distinctly Ethiopian in its melody and its soul.
You know, it's almost like he built a skyscraper.
A skyscraper.
Yeah, like architectural engineering. Imagine building this sleek, modern skyscraper, but using ancient traditional Highland stonework for the foundation.
Oh, I like that.
So it feels completely new and towering, but also deeply intuitively familiar to anyone walking past it. It's almost like he created a musical Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse. That's a great way to look at it.
Right. He takes this deep, familiar, driving bass line of reggae, which just easily sneaks past global and generational defenses because it just feels so good to listen to.
Yes, exactly.
And he uses that bass line as a vehicle to deliver these intricate, ancient five-note Amharic melodies. He basically tricks the ear into feeling relaxed, and then he hits the listener with deeply traditional, fiercely local storytelling.
That is the perfect mechanism to describe it, honestly, because he engineered a sonic vehicle that could carry really heavy cargo.
Heavy cargo.
Yeah, because he didn't just want to make people dance in nightclubs. He wanted to tell stories that carried immense societal weight.
Right.
And once he perfected that Trojan horse sound with Abu Ghida, he started pointing it at massive, painful geopolitical shifts, turning them into highly intimate human stories.
Okay, let's look at what he smuggled inside that Trojan horse, starting with the track Habdelek.
Yeah, Abdallah.
Because the geopolitical context of the song is incredibly heavy. We are talking about the separation of Ethiopia and Eritrea.
It's a massively complex historical event. You are dealing with bitter border disputes, decades of shifting political alliances, and honestly immense sprawling national trauma.
Right.
It's the kind of sweeping historical event that usually involves governments, militaries, rigid lines drawn on a map by politicians.
So how does an artist even approach that in a pop song? I mean, I have to push back a little here. Doesn't singing about heavy geopolitics or national trauma over a catchy reggae beat run the risk of completely trivializing the pain of the people who actually lived through it?
It's a really valid question, and it seems highly counterintuitive on paper.
Right.
You take a brutal border crisis and you put it to a pop reggae rhythm. But the brilliance is entirely in his framing.
How so?
He completely ignores the politicians and the maps. He frames this entire geopolitical earthquake through the agonizing lens of two young lovers who have been physically torn apart by the new border.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Suddenly the border isn't a political talking point.
Yeah.
It's the literal barrier keeping a fiancé from their partner.
So he takes the macro and just crushes it down into the micro.
Exactly. It's the exact opposite of what state news does.
Yeah.
When a border dispute is just an abstract policy discussed on the evening news, it's very easy for the general public to just detach from it. It feels far away.
Yeah, it's numbers and maps.
Exactly. But compressing those massive shifts into intimate car radio sing-alongs, it actually heightens the listener's empathy.
I can see that.
Because when that newly drawn border is the exact reason why two lovers can never see each other again, you feel the physical heartbreak of the separation. He forces the listener to experience the massive political reality through intense personal heartbreak.
That's incredibly powerful. And he does something really similar with cultural identity on another track, Mona Lisa, right?
Yes, Mona Lisa.
Instead of focusing on geopolitics, he takes aim at the classic Western-dominated standard of artistic beauty. I mean, the literal Mona Lisa by Da Vinci.
The ultimate Western standard.
Exactly. And he completely re-anchors that standard of grace and timeless aesthetic in African women.
Yeah.
He shifts the entire paradigm of what a society considers classic beauty, and he does it all through a love song.
And that transition from the macro to the micro is his superpower. He realizes that if you want to teach a massive population, you don't lecture them. You make them feel it personally.
Right.
Which actually explains his next major move.
Okay, where do we go next?
Well, if his early work was about processing very recent trauma and intimate heartbreak, his next chapter was about pointing that sonic weapon backward in time.
Backward in time.
Yeah, he started resurrecting deep ancient pride, proving he wasn't just, a romantic pop star. He became a musical historian for a whole new generation.
Okay, so let's jump to 2012 for this. He drops the epic album Tikur Sew, which translates to Black Man.
Right.
And what's crazy about this release is the context surrounding it. He had been on a 7-year hiatus.
7 years.
Yeah. In the modern music industry, a 7-year break is basically a career death sentence. People forget you, streaming algorithms abandon you.
Usually, yes.
But he returns with this massive project, and the entire thematic focus of the record is the 1896 Battle of Adwa.
And we really need to establish the gravity of Adwa, for those who might not know.
Please do.
The Battle of Adwa is a monumental flashpoint, not just for Ethiopia, but in global history.
Absolutely.
It is the defining battle where Emperor Menelik II and his forces decisively defeated the invading Italian army.
Right.
And that victory ensured Ethiopia remained fiercely independent and uncolonized during the scramble for Africa.
It's massive. But the sources point out a really interesting cultural problem that existed before this album came out.
What was that?
The younger generation in Ethiopia had started to view the Battle of Adwa as this dry, dusty chapter in their school history textbooks.
Just something to memorize.
Exactly. It was something you memorized to pass a standardized test. It wasn't something you felt vibrating in your chest. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Teddy Afro completely changes that dynamic. He takes an 1896 military victory and injects it with stadium-level cinematic production.
Yeah, the production is huge.
He utilizes these heavy traditional triplets and aggressive, literal war chant energies. So imagine millions of modern teenagers dressed in modern streetwear, scrolling on their smartphones, fiercely headbanging in their cars to a song about a 19th century military campaign.
I mean, it completely disrupts how we think about the mechanics of cultural memory.
How so?
Think about where history usually lives. It lives in archives, in silent museums, in dense academic papers.
Places teenagers don't usually hang out.
Exactly. Those places can feel incredibly static and inaccessible. By reviving that fierce historical pride and injecting it directly into heavy reggae bass lines, he essentially rescued the Battle of Adwa from the archives.
Wow, yeah.
He translated his heretical triumph into their modern sonic language, ensuring that the history actively survives and resonates in the streets, rather than just gathering dust in a library.
He essentially weaponized pop music to teach history.
Yes.
But, digging into the past like that, celebrating a universally agreed upon 1896 victory against an outside invader that's relatively safe territory for a pop star.
True. It's unifying.
The true danger arrived when he started speaking to the present moment. This is the point in our deep dive where his immense cultural influence directly clashed with state power.
Right. And to understand that, we have to step back a little to the year 2005.
Okay.
And the release of his profoundly impactful album, Yasteseryal, which translates roughly to God forgives or God reconciles.
Okay, this is a critical juncture in the story. And before we detail what happened, we need to make something explicitly clear to you, the listener.
Yes, very important.
The sources we are utilizing today detail a very specific, heated political climate and the ruling government's reaction to this album at the time.
Right.
We are impartially laying out these historical facts as they occurred, without endorsing any political viewpoint, party, or side. We are simply examining the documented cultural impact of this music as outlined in our research.
Exactly. So let's look at the historical context the sources provide.
Let's do it.
Yasteseryal was released directly alongside the highly contentious general elections of 2005. The political climate was incredibly tense. And into that powder keg, Teddy Afro drops an album carrying a very direct, unignorable message.
What was the message?
It actively criticized political gridlock. It called out deep, unhealed societal wounds. And above all else, it demanded national unity, peace, and forgiveness above ethnic lines.
Now, on the surface, demanding peace and forgiveness sounds like the safest, most universally positive message an artist could send, right?
You'd think so, yes.
Yes.
But context is everything.
Okay.
In that specific fractured political environment, a massive pop star commanding millions of people to unite and demand reconciliation was seen as deeply disruptive.
Wow.
The track carried so much societal weight that the ruling government at the time actively banned multiple songs from the album from being broadcast on any state radio or television stations.
A total ban.
Yeah. They initiated a complete media blackout on official channels.
So what does this all mean? I mean, if a government controls the television and the radio and they ban your music, how does the message survive?
That's the wild part.
Let's talk about the logistics of this, because the numbers in the sources are just staggering. Despite a total blackout on state media, this album sold over 1 million bootleg and underground copies in a matter of months.
1 million copies?
Wait, how does a 1 million copy underground market even physically function in 2005?
It functions entirely through decentralized, peer-to-peer distribution driven by sheer cultural demand.
Just people doing it themselves.
Exactly. Someone buys a cassette, they take it home, they copy it on a dual deck player, and they pass it to 5 friends.
Oh man, the dual deck players.
Right. Street vendors duplicate them. Taxi drivers play them on a loop, turning their cars into mobile broadcasting stations. The official airwaves were silent, but the streets were absolutely deafening.
Which brings us directly back to that visual we started with today. That phenomenon became known as the cop car tradition.
Yes.
The band didn't silence him at all. It made his music ubiquitous. Life in Addis Ababa practically stopped. Every blue and white taxi, every cafe completely syncing up.
Everyone listening together.
The civilian driver and the police officer pulling him over, both bound together by the exact same band artist playing on the radio.
And this raises an important question about the sheer weight and danger of a single independent voice.
So?
Think about the traditional mechanics of power. A government typically relies on state media to communicate its narrative and maintain authority, right?
Sure.
But when a single musician can completely bypass that state media apparatus, when millions of citizens are actively organizing underground cassette networks, just to hear his message of a singular, proud identity, the musician ceases to be just a pop star.
Right, they become something else.
They become a parallel authority of cultural power. He was commanding the emotional resonance and the attention of the populace far more effectively than the official state channels were.
He achieved a literal cultural monopoly.
Absolutely.
He held the emotional real estate of an entire nation. And what the sources show is that an intense, localized cultural monopoly of that magnitude cannot be contained by geographic borders for long.
No, it always spills over.
And when it did, it completely defied and broke the traditional Western music industry model.
The sheer logistics of his global breakthrough are staggering. Let's fast forward a bit to his 2017 album, simply titled Ethiopia.
Okay, I really want to focus on the physical logistics of this release because the sources state that on release day alone, the album Ethiopia sold over 600,000 physical copies.
Yes, physical CDs.
I need to pause on that. In 2017, the global music industry had almost entirely abandoned CDs.
Oh, completely.
Everyone was shifting to Spotify, Apple Music, and digital streaming. How does an independent artist move over 500,000 physical plastic discs in a single day during the digital era?
Because he didn't rely on the corporate infrastructure, he relied on community loyalty.
Okay.
The domestic audience in Ethiopia and the incredibly passionate global diaspora functioned as his distribution network.
Wow.
They showed up to physical locations, entirely bypassing the digital algorithms that Western artists depend on.
It's sort of like discovering a massive underground root system that suddenly sprouts an entire forest overnight, completely dwarfing the manicured, heavily funded corporate gardens that the major labels spend millions trying to cultivate.
That's a great analogy.
Because he didn't just sell physical copies. He shot straight to #1 on the Billboard World Albums chart.
#1.
He completely dominated iTunes and CD Baby metrics, and he did all of this entirely independent of the major Western record label systems. There was no massive PR firm in Los Angeles or London pulling the strings.
And crucially, he achieved this Billboard-topping global domination while singing entirely in Amharic.
Right.
He didn't dilute his language. He didn't sprinkle in English choruses to try and manufacture a crossover hit.
And he's proving that this wasn't just like a 2017 physical media anomaly. Look at his recent album, Etorika.
Yes, Etorika.
He completely adapted to the modern era, generating over 100 million streams and video views in its first week alone.
In a week.
Yeah. He swept charts globally, trending heavily in the United States, the UK, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Sweden. Almost 25 years after his debut, his grip hasn't slipped an inch.
Not at all.
He bridged the gap from selling underground bootleg cassettes in 2005 to moving massive mountains of physical CDs in 2017 to completely dominating next-generation global streaming algorithms today.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces the entire music industry to rethink how global representation actually works.
Oh, totally.
For decades, the conventional gate-kept wisdom was that if you wanted to be a global superstar, you had to sing in English.
Right, that was the rule.
Or at the very least, you had to sign away your rights to a massive Western record label and compromise some fundamental part of your cultural identity to make your music, palatable for a wider Western audience.
Yeah.
Teddy Afro dismantled that myth.
Yeah.
He proved that if your foundation is authentic and your connection to your people is deep enough, you could achieve multi-decade legendary global status without compromising a single syllable of your native language or surrendering your independent status.
He truly built his own self-sustaining cultural ecosystem.
You really did.
When you look at everything we've unpacked today, Tewodros Kassahun is so much more than a musician.
Absolutely.
He is a brilliant sonic architect, figuring out how to smuggle ancient pentatonic melodies inside driving reggae bass lines.
Right.
He's a masterful translator, turning the bitter, complex pills of geopolitics and border disputes into intimate love songs that force us to feel the heartbreak of a nation.
Yeah.
He is a historian who made millions of teenagers fiercely headbang to an 1896 military victory, pulling history out of the archives and into the street.
That's my favorite part, honestly.
Right. And perhaps most significantly, he is a voice of unity who wields enough undeniable cultural power to unnerve a state apparatus and bypass the global music machine entirely.
He provides a living, breathing masterclass in the tangible power of art.
He really does.
And so we turn the conversation to you, the listener. After hearing about the sheer scale of this phenomenon, from the engineering of the Trojan horse sound to the underground network that moved 1 million bootlegs during a media blackout, to his independent domination of the Billboard charts, what stands out to you?
Yeah, is it the precise musical fusion, his role as a historian, or the undeniable gravity of his political influence?
It's a lot to consider.
It certainly makes you question the permanence of the systems we often assume are all-powerful. We started today by picturing a massive, chaotic city brought to an absolute standstill by a single song.
Right.
A civilian driver and a police officer bound together by the exact same band melody. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought for you to explore on your own.
What is it?
If a single independent artist singing exclusively in his native language can capture the historical memory and the emotional real estate of an entire nation and its massive global diaspora entirely through grassroots, independent channels, are traditional record labels and state-run media apparatuses actually losing their historical grip on how history is recorded, disseminated, and ultimately remembered?
Wow.
We will leave you to ponder that.